3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Fourth Line Podcast, part of Full Press Radio. With you today is myself, Carl, and Stevie Nick. It's also January 10th, 2020. I'm all over the place. It's 2022. I changed up. I changed up the way, the cadence that I said the intro in, and it fully messed me up. I should never do that ever.
You can't do that, Carl. What episode? We're on episode 350 or something like that. You can't do that.
I think this is going to be 364, and I decided that right now, in our final stretch of, we got 30 episodes left, and I decided now was the time to switch it up.
Yeah, good idea, Carl.
Yeah, why not, right? It's been, it was good to have hockey back this week, though. It felt great.
It did feel good. You know what else felt good? Not related to the NHL, but kind of related to hockey. I'm finally getting some consistently freezing temperatures in Toronto, which you have had them in Calgary for a while, right?
It was minus 30 last week. So yes.
So jealous because my first attempt at building an outdoor rink is happening right now.
Ooh, okay. So I've never done that myself. So what does it take? What does it take for you to make your own rink?
Well, there's two ways of doing it, and I'm kind of doing a combo, which I don't think is very advisable. It's the first time I've ever done it.
So one way of doing what Nick's doing.
There's one way of doing it is if you get a bunch of snow, you can just kind of stomp the snow down in the area where you want the ice to be, lay water down on it, let it freeze a little bit, put more water on it, let it freeze more, put more water. So you can do it that way. Or you can do a setup where you build a border for your rink with plywood if you want. I'm using a PVC pipe system. And then you lay down a tarp and then you fill that with water.
And you've filled your tarp with snow. Is that your strategy?
Well, I started to fill it with water and then the tarp ripped in a couple spots. So the water started leaking out and then it snowed on top of the water. So I had a bit of a base in one end of the rink. So I've just been putting more water on it and plugging the holes with snow to hope they freeze.
Okay.
It's been a rough go, but this week we're supposed to get some between minus 10 and minus 20 all week. So I'm really hoping I can collect some ice in there.
That should be good. That should definitely get it done for you. I know. It's warmed up. We have these things out here in, especially in Calgary, called Chinooks, where we get a bunch of essentially a thermal inversion off the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's 4 degrees out here this week. So it literally went, I think it was minus 20 on Saturday. And now today it was plus 7 at one point this afternoon.
Man, I remember sitting on a patio in January in Calgary once. It was between 10 and 20 degrees Celsius in January.
Yeah. And then it'll go back down and we'll get a bunch of snow and it'll be minus 30 again. But hey, you take this week how you can.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's going on in the NHL?
Hey, we've got some folks in trouble this week. Some folks lost jobs. Some folks got jobs. We're going to talk about all of those things. We're also going to reintroduce a brand new segment. And these last 2 years we've tried it. It hasn't gone according to plan. So we're going to see what happens this year.
COVID's ruined a lot of things for us, but it's really killed the Elimination Station.
It really has. I'll save that comment for when we get to it. Right. We're going to do our best and worst, but hey, let's start with the news. Evander Kane was officially put on waivers for the purpose of contract termination by the San Jose Sharks. And the reason they gave was for COVID protocol violations in the AHL, which is an interesting way that they went about making that happen.
So we all knew his time with the Sharks was over. Now we know they were just waiting for their opportunity to formalize it, basically, and end the contract. They knew he was going to screw up at some point. So they're just let's just wait him out.
Yeah.
And he did.
So do we know what it was that he did in the AHL?
I think Oh God, I saw a headline, and this is why I'm hesitating because I didn't actually read the longer story. But I believe what happened was he crossed the border into Canada and lied about his COVID status. He was positive. He said he was negative. Attempted to cross the border, could not.
Are we actually still doing this, Evander? Like, if that is actually the reason of what it was that caused his protocol issues. I mean, you lied about having a vaccine, and then you lied about your COVID. Did you not learn your lesson the first time? Because I thought like, all right, what kind of protocol is he breaking? Because like I feel like that opens a big can of worms, right? It's like, well, he wasn't masked when he should have been, or something like that, right? But I mean, lying about that to border agents is definitely an issue that could lead to that.
So I just pulled it up while you were talking about that. It is true, but he wasn't traveling with the team for a team-related game or activity or anything. He violated league rules by traveling home to Vancouver while he was in COVID protocol last month.
Okay.
So he still traveled across the border while he had COVID.
Yeah. I mean, not the best plan there, Evander. And now, I mean, so through all this, now the NHLPA has filed a grievance on his behalf. And they say, so that's a lot of money that he's missing out on, right? I mean, with yes. What's left on his deal, right? Because his deal was $7 million a year.
Yeah, it's big.
And with this, I mean, with them having essentially fired with cause, they're trying to get away and out of this contract and having to pay him. So interesting situation. But what also leads to the fact that there are a number of teams apparently in the market for Evander Kane. Do you think that there is actually a plausible situation where this season Evander Kane ends up on a NHL roster?
Yeah, man. Gord Miller from TSN was just tweeting tonight that he'll be signed by the end of the week.
This week?
Yeah.
That's fast.
Someone's going to sign this guy, and it's going to be for super cheap.
Well, it'll be for like $1 million.
Yes.
It'll be for the rest of the season.
Yes.
So it's super low. I mean, I guess it's not low risk. Financially, it's low risk.
I just wonder, like, how do you go about signing? Like, how does management go about signing a guy like that? Like, they'd have to consult the leadership group on the team, right? The players' leadership group.
Oh, very much so.
This guy has been strongly disliked on probably on every team he's played for, but at least we know on the last, I think 3 teams he's played for, there have been stories about how disliked he was in the locker room.
Well, because it was in Winnipeg that the clothes got thrown in the shower. The
clothes, yeah.
Then I don't know what happened in Buffalo. And then for Buffalo, he went to
San Jose. Yeah. So, and, this league is very tight, I think, from a player's perspective. A lot of them train together in the off seasons. A lot of them know each other from playing with each other in the past. They get traded. They sign in different places. If he's not liked in 2 or 3 locker rooms, I have a feeling he's not liked in like 30 locker rooms.
Yeah, that sounds about accurate. So, I mean, it's interesting, right? To see what happens. The good news is that if it becomes an issue, right, management would have to have a very, very short leash to cut him.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, I would think so.
Now, what is interesting is the talk that I'm seeing of Edmonton being a possible location, because Edmonton, I mean, we've seen in the past couple of weeks, Edmonton has definitely struggled, right? I think part of it, maybe we'll get to this in a second, but I mean, there's lots of potential reasons for it, but some have called for coaching changes, some have called for, lineup changes, goaltending changes. But in a situation where it clearly seems that something continues to be wrong in Edmonton, right? Like there's continually issues there. When what seems like a pretty volatile situation in a volatile locker room, I would not be wanting to bring in a wild card. I'd be wanting to bring in a known quantity. someone that you know what you're going to get, who can bring something solid and stable, which is the opposite of Evander.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to just bring a wild bull into the locker room and take it off the leash. Go nuts, he'll destroy it.
Now, I do want to know, why do you have a bull on a leash anyways, Nick? First off, how did you leash a bull? So let's maybe start there. How are you leashing that bull?
Look, Carl, I spent a lot of years on the Ken Holland train. I know how simultaneously strong and nonsensical he can be. Sedate, right? If you're getting a bull, you got to sedate it somehow.
Okay, so I like where we're going. So you sedate the bull first.
Yes.
And then you put a leash on it.
Yeah. But it has to be a strong leash, because imagine it just wakes up and it's on like a dog leash.
Well, exactly, right? Like you've got probably inch thick leash. So you've got that leash. It wakes up. It's probably still a little groggy, and it tries to go somewhere, and all of a sudden it's leashed up. And now you're trying to lead that bull on a leash through an NHL arena into a locker room.
I think it has to wake up in the locker room on the leash.
So Evander falls asleep in San Jose, and he wakes up.
Yeah, I forgot he was the bull.
This analogy has gone all kinds of, but it does make sense. For an actual literal bull, you would want to kind of bring it in sedated.
Yeah.
Probably and you want to do it during practice, not like you don't want that on game day.
Oh yeah, for sure. And knowing Ken Holland, he'll pay it like $8 million too.
The good news is that if it's an actual bull, then that doesn't count against the cap. So you can sign it for as much as you want. Okay. And then it wakes up. I would do it when I'm on the road as well. That's what I would do. That way it's not in your own locker room, your own arena, that you have that problem in.
Just do it at your next away game in San Jose. Why pay for the travel?
That's fair. All of a sudden you got a sedated bull.
And transport it across the country? No.
I don't know if you can bring a sedated bull. I mean, I guess you want to bring sedated bulls across the border. Anyways, for our bovine listeners, you're welcome for that. For everyone else, we all learned a valuable lesson about what we can do with bulls.
Okay, but in all seriousness, no Canadian team can sign Evander Kane, right? Like, there's no way this guy could follow the COVID-19 protocols we have north of the border. There's no way.
No. Well, and you wouldn't want to have to deal with the hassle of trying to, because he could only play games either in Canada or in the States. I even think you wouldn't want to be, because if you are right, like the Tyler Bertuzzi situation.
Yeah.
Right. He can only play games in the States. So he gets left behind for road games.
Right.
So Evander would only be able to play games in Canada. So he could play home games and like some road games.
So you're saying he wouldn't be able to cross the border because of his vaccination status?
I don't know. Did he get vaccinated?
I think he did. But now that we're having this conversation, I have a question about the Tyler Bertuzzi situation. And I fully understand you may not be able to answer this, but
I'm ready to answer it.
Tyler Bertuzzi is from Sudbury, Ontario, Canada.
Been there.
Canadian citizen.
Mm-hmm.
How can they deny him entry into the country?
That's a great question. I wanted to have I guess he would have to, I think the issue is he has to isolate.
As an unvaccinated, he'd have to isolate for the 10 days, I guess.
I guess so.
Quarantine?
Look, let's be real here. COVID rules are changing fast and furious, and it's pretty hard to keep up with them right now. So I don't know what the situation is.
Agreed. Anyways.
Okay.
No Canadian team should sign Evander Kane. Let's be real. No team should sign Evander Kane. It's just not a good idea right now.
No, but someone's going to.
Someone is going to, for sure.
And here's how you know that someone is going to, because not only is Evander Kane on the market and that happened, but we saw an actual NHL team. The Los Angeles Kings this week went out and brought Marc Bergevin on as the assistant general manager to their team. Making an interesting choice after his fairly unfavorable exit from Montreal.
Yeah, I don't really get it from either party's perspective here. Like, I'm not quite sure what the Kings are hoping to get out of Bergevin. I'm also not quite sure why Marc Bergevin is settling for an advisor role or whatever it is.
I get it from the Kings perspective. If you're looking like as a hockey, solely from the hockey side of things, I think Marc Bergevin did a pretty good job for some time. Yes, was there significant flaws with some of what he did in Montreal? Yes. Did he buy too hard into the success of this team the last year? Yes. But he built a winning team for quite some time. He was able to continually, like, I won't say rebuild on the fly, but like he'd have a down year and then they'd be back up, right? Like he was able to make some of those adjustments. And I think he did a pretty good job with them as a team. Certainly, I mean, like every GM, you can look at it and see some big flaws that they have. And in the role that he's in, he kind of is outside of that.
Yeah. And I think, like from a trades perspective, he was fairly successful when it came to that. But they just got to keep him away from the draft. Because I was looking at the Habs draft history for the last couple of years, and it's no bueno.
No, it's not good. So if that's where he is, like if he's essentially like a pro scout and working in that regard, then that's awesome. I think from a PR perspective, you want to keep him far away from everything that's happening. But I mean, the Kings have had their own share of issues in the past, right? They haven't shied away from any of it, whether it be the Slava Voinov situation, everything that happened with Mike Richards and them, cutting him. They've, in the last decade, have had a number of difficult situations to have to overcome.
That's why I think that Evander Kane could end up in Los Angeles. It just seems like the kind of thing Marc Bergevin would do.
I mean, it very much does.
And I know he's not the prime decision maker there, but it's just that name, Bergevin, I could see the line being drawn.
The call was made. Probably like that was his first thing that he did. Showed up. All right, Mark, here's your computer. This is your office. And here's Evander Kane's phone number.
Well, you have a default password to access your computer right now. You could change it right away. What would you like to change it to? Evander Kane. AAV3.
We need a number. All right.
And an exclamation point. It's like K, the @ symbol, and then the number 3.
For how many years I want to put on this contract I'm going to sign it to. And I think it'll probably, I mean, depending on what his role becomes, I think it's I could be a decent move for the Kings, actually. Like he has some benefits. Like you said, his draft record, not good though.
No, not good. It could also just be a stopgap for him. I mean, it's, pretty low risk. If he then gets offered a GM position this offseason, just quit with the Kings and take the GM job, right? Like, because he's not going to be GM of Los Angeles. Who's the Kings manager right now? Is it Rob Blake or Luke Robitaille? One of those guys?
Rob Blake.
Rob Blake, yeah. So he's not knocking Rob Blake off that throne.
No, not at all. No, that's Rob Blake's job. And I mean, that's great. I think what they're doing in LA, they've got a good thing going, which is also why I wouldn't want to bring Evander into that young locker room. And like, there's a lot of, I mean, there is definitely some leadership in that room, right? But like you got Drew Doughty and Jonathan Quick and Onze up front. So yeah.
Well, they shellacked my Wings this weekend.
That was a game. I only saw, I mean, the picture that went around. I was not watching hockey Saturday night, which was sad because there was quite the game that I missed that evening.
Oh, you didn't watch that game? That was a good game.
I am well aware as I returned to my phone and was flooded with what is happening in this game messages. And I was like, I don't know, but I assume Cale Makar had something to do with it.
He did.
Yeah, he did. But I saw at one point the score was like 3-0 LA and the Wings had 2 shots to 27 for the Kings.
Dude, I was so mad. I rage quit that game after the first period. They were losing 2-0 and LA was out shooting them 27-1 after the first period.
27. I mean, good on, was it
Nedeljkovic
was in net? Good on him for being the only guy who showed up that night.
I was so mad. I was like, it's now 11:30 p.m. at night. There's no way I'm staying up to watch the rest of this game.
No, and you shouldn't have to.
No.
I do want to give you a shout out for just stealing my worst of the week, though. So I'll have to come up with a different one.
We can talk more about it later if you want, but I really don't want to.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't gonna spend too much time on it, so that's good. But that was not the worst. I mean, that was not a great showing by the team, but a pretty bad loss that happened, and some folks were pretty upset about it. One person in particular, Dallas Stars, yesterday were playing a game against the Blues. It was weird. I mean, this NHL schedule is all kinds of strange. The Stars played back-to-back matinees, which I feel like never happens.
Yeah, and they weren't just matinees. Like, it was 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Just kind of a random smack in the middle of the afternoon game.
Yeah. So anyways, Stars played the second of their back-to-back matinees, which the one before that, I'll put a pin in that. Maybe we'll use it in our best of the week. Maybe that's one of your bests because the Penguins, my goodness. So they played the second game, up 1-0, dying minutes of the game. 2 penalties get called on the Dallas Stars. 1 doesn't get called on the Blues, and the Blues scored 2 goals in the last 2 minutes to win the game, both of them on that power play. To which Rick Bowness, coach of the Stars, loses his mind after the game. And I won't say it was an all-timer angry coach situation, but like everyone's left the bench except for him.
Is a good coach freakout. We haven't had a good coach freakout like that in a while. Like, he's just screaming. His face is so red. His hair is disheveled. And he grabs a stick and just destroys it against the backboards.
And in pretty quick timing, too. Like, he started and that stick was done.
Just amazing. And then I was watching the video and I was like, whoa, the bench is empty. It's a good thing no one was around to see this. And he walks towards the tunnel and Jamie Benn's just standing there in the door.
I mean, the team's going to see that pretty quickly afterwards.
Oh, fantastic. Really good. It was a good coach freakout. And like I said, we haven't had a good one like that for a while. Not an all-timer. And when you think about all-timers, Carl, because I've been thinking about this today, your Avalanche are on the top of that list.
Well, I mean, the good news is that we have multiple of them, but the very first one that came to mind when we were going to say we were going to talk about this, I got to go back to Patrick Waugh's very first game as the coach of the Avalanche. He set the tone for what he was going to do very early.
Oh, yeah. That's the first one that popped into my head, too. The best is him pushing on the glass and the glass just falling over.
Right on top of Bruce Boudreau. I want to say that's who it was, right? Coaching the Ducks at the time.
I think so, just yeah.
On the glass. And that's what was great about that is it was not just a one coach freakout. We had a double freakout leading to arena dismemberment. In the very first game of him as a professional coach.
It must have been some sort of like mood setting thing, right? Like, I'm going to set the tone right here, not just for my team, but like for what kind of coach I intend to be.
Exactly.
Passionate, angry.
My team's going to know that I got their backs. I'm not putting up with anything. Nothing's happening. We're doing this.
And Bruce Boudreau's going to know that his life is at risk tonight.
He knows that this piece of plexiglass isn't going to keep me from him.
That is probably my all-time favorite one.
I mean, that's my first go-to as well. Well, what do you have?
There's also Mark Crawford.
Yes.
Back in the 90s. Is Mark Crawford the one who threw sticks on the ice?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, right?
Yeah.
There's that. And then there's him like challenging 70-year-old Scotty Bowman to a fight.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah. Good old Mark Crawford.
Another one that I very much appreciated was here in Calgary, John Tortorella and I'm forgetting his name now. Former Avalanche coach, Flames coach at the time.
It's not Berard, is it?
No. Anyways, I'll remember it. But
I can see his face.
They sent out the enforcers to start the game, and they had the fight, and Torts was furious about it, so much so that, and this was like, you talk about Bowness being after the game, Torts stormed down and tried to get into the Flames locker room after the game. That is a good freak out.
Bob Hartley, that's
the one.
Yeah, that was a really good freak out. Because I remember distinctly the pointing while they were yelling, and you know how like angry dads will point their finger right out in front of them with anger and passion.
Yes.
There's a lot of that going on because the players were kind of in between them. I don't remember what player the Flames had, but they were just holding him back.
Yeah, that was good. What I remember the most about that was I was on my way. I actually had hockey that night, and so I'm listening to the game on the radio, and just the radio guys trying to describe this scene of what was happening was a challenge for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a good one. I mean, I was just going to say Torts in general, because Torts has had so many good freakouts and rants, like especially his time with the Rangers, because he was at odds with the media there. So I think he had a lot of good exchanges.
Lots of good interview exchanges for Torts in New York.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. So those would be, I think, like the other three that pop out at me. I can't think of really any others off the top of my head.
I think of the only one that I think of was, this was before he was in the NHL, but Jim Playfair was another recent one that stuck out, where he like disrobes on the bench. He's like taking his suit jacket off and like breaking sticks on the bench. Have you seen that one?
No, I've not seen that one.
Okay, you've got to go check that one out.
Amazing.
He's like got the suit jacket on, and he like hands the jacket to his assistant. He's like, hold this, I got stuff to go do. And he's like yelling at the coach, and he's breaking sticks. Are really good. Like it's the coach version of, when like Tuukka Rask loses his mind and like breaks a stick and gets the milk crate and throws that out. Yeah. It's the coach version of that freak out.
That's a good one. Got to see that one.
Got to check that out. All right, let's take a break here. We're going to be back on the side. 2 segments, best and worst, and the season debut of the Elimination Station.
Elimination Station.
3, 2, 1.
Great to hear our Elimination Station jingle yet again.
It's good to have it back.
This is one of my favorite segments. I like eliminating people's teams.
Especially, this time of the year, it's easy. But this is the biggest challenge that we give ourselves every season.
Yeah. I feel lucky right now in this instant because this is the easy part.
For sure.
It gets much harder as we go on.
Yeah, it's not going to get easy. It only gets harder from here. So if this is your first season listening, or maybe you forget what we did last year, because who even knows what happened last year? Here's what we do. Starting sometime in January, apparently, we start eliminating teams from the playoffs. And in doing this, we try to decide what they need to do to fix it. This makes it even easier because we have an extra team to eliminate this year. There are 16 teams that we need to eliminate from the playoffs. So we're going to work our way through them. We're going to eliminate, probably start with the team possibly the 32nd team in the standings this week. That seems like an easy decision. However, we had to take a team out last year, did we not? Dallas?
I think it was last year.
I think we had to take a team out last year. We've only ever.
I think it was
twice.
Nashville, actually.
Nashville?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right. I knew it was in that debate, in that division. So we've only twice ever had to take a team out. Once, my Colorado Avalanche magically got uneliminated, and last year the Nashville Predators. So we're gonna work our way through this and see what we have. So, is there a team that stands out to you for elimination?
I thought there was. And then I realized that there are two teams that have 7 wins and 23 losses.
There's 2 teams with 7 wins this year?
Yeah.
Well,
one of which we've already talked about tonight.
Ooh.
The other we've talked about a lot over the course of the season.
I want to eliminate the team with the less points. Not because of that, but that's who I had in my mind tonight to eliminate.
You're speaking, of course, about the Arizona Coyotes.
I am speaking, of course, of the Arizona Coyotes. That's who I had in mind as the team to eliminate. And so I'd like to start there.
I agree. But I would also like to point out that the Habs only have 18 points.
In 34 games.
We'll maybe see you next week, Montreal.
I think there is a very solid bottom 5 teams to eliminate this year.
Yes, I think so too.
I think the first 5 teams to eliminate are pretty locked in. So hey, welcome the first team. Welcome to the 2022 Elimination Station, the Arizona Coyotes.
Da-da-da. Number one thing you need to do, find an arena to play in.
Did you see the news this week that their bid to spend $1.7 billion on an arena in Tempe didn't get voted successfully by city council?
They could not get the votes in place.
In what scenario? I look, as someone who currently lives in a city that just had an arena deal with an NHL team fall through, that was far less than $1.7 billion for a money-making venture like the Calgary Flames to then go to the Arizona Coyotes, who cannot draw a full crowd because they cannot play winning hockey, and show up and say, we want to spend $1.7 billion and have the audacity to ask city council for money. My goodness.
It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. And it makes you wonder, what are they doing? What are we doing here? How much longer are they going to dance this dance in the desert?
If that's not a headline, I don't know what is.
Better than Coyotes arena deal is on thin ice.
Dun, dun, dun.
It's where most publications opted to go this week. The hockey puns, they write themselves.
Sometimes. How did you, in building your outdoor rink, and you found those first holes in the tarp, did you say to anyone that your rink was on thin ice?
I didn't know.
Missed opportunity.
I swore a lot to myself. And then I said to my wife, I don't think this is going to work. I think I should go get a stronger tarp. And then the next day I had a little bit of a base of ice and I was like, maybe it will work.
We're about to find out.
We're going to find out this week.
Well, there it goes. The dance in the desert. I like that. We have to figure out what they're doing, right? They have to figure out where they're going to play. It can't continue like this. It's hard to get a fan base excited when there's the continual will they, won't they of leaving town, or where will they play. It's hard to get anyone on board when you're not fully sold on them even staying.
Yeah. Not to mention attracting talented hockey players to play for your team. That's going to get harder to do.
When was the last time Arizona went out and made a big free agency splash?
Didn't they do that with Taylor Hall, or did they trade for him?
They traded for Taylor Hall. They traded for Phil Kessel.
Clayton Keller was not a UFA.
Clayton Keller was drafted. And so and that was a signing after his ELC.
Ryan Zingle.
Andrew Ladd might be the correct answer here.
They traded for him.
Like literally everyone on this roster traded, signing Johan Larsson, Liam O'Brien, Alex Galchenyuk on defense trade. There is not a single player on this roster of significant merit that was signed by this team. Nobody wants to play for the Arizona Coyotes.
That's a rough state for them to be in. And I think it's going to get worse.
Because even Derek Stepan was a sign and trade. Is that correct?
Couldn't tell you. I don't even remember.
I want to say that the last big name that they managed to convince to do anything with the team was Derek Stepan. Nonetheless, that's a problem.
Well, and they're going to be doing more trading soon, right? Like at this point, it's sell, sell, sell. Kessel, gone. We know from basically hockey media that Jacob Chychrun is going to be traded.
Yeah, he has been big time on the market. Yes. And that should get that is the piece that would get them the biggest and best return.
Yes, for sure.
Because what would you think? What is one part season? So like the rest of this season is all Phil Kessel has left in his deal. What's that going to get you at this point in time?
A mid draft pick.
Yeah.
Third or fourth rounder.
I think a third, maybe a second, solely based on name value. So you can get people kind of excited, sell some hot dogs.
Yeah. There it is.
And maybe they can send like a signed version of that poster you've got behind you for him.
Oh, of the head?
Of the head.
How much do you think that could go for?
A signed version of that or just the head?
Yeah, a signed version. Not just the head.
I bet $100.
Really?
So what we're talking about is, we've told the story before, but if you missed it, Nick, what's the head?
The Phil Kessel head is I'd say a life-size reproduction.
I'd say larger than life size.
Larger than life size.
I'm going to need you to later, next time I'm talking, I'm going to need you to go get that from behind you and hold it up next to your head so that we can compare sizes.
Okay, I will do that. The story is that it is basically from the shoulders up, Phil Kessel's infamous Team USA Olympic photo. You know the one I'm talking about. And my wife and I had it made up for our wedding so Phil Kessel could join us on the dance floor. And after the wedding, she didn't want it anymore. So I took it and put it in my office.
The best place for it. Absolutely. So yeah, Phil Kessel's got 1 year left. I mean, with what the dollar amounts is irrelevant. The Coyotes, what's nice, the Coyotes can certainly afford to eat some of that dollar amount. Okay, Nick now has it. Is that side by side with your head?
It's bigger. Yeah, it's way bigger.
That is like twice the size, twice life sized. I think if Phil Kessel were to sign that forehead, I think that would be a nice little addition to anyone's hockey room.
You think so? Should we take a snapshot so you can tweet it so people can see how big this thing is?
Print screen. There we go. Here, I'll take a picture of it too, just in case that didn't work.
Yeah, good idea. People need to see this thing. It's glorious.
Yeah, it's real nice. All right. So we've got that. I'll tweet that out, hopefully, but maybe even before the show's done so that people can see what we got coming for them.
Great.
So that's what we've got happening in Arizona. Lots of guys signed. But what else is there, right? Other than Kessel and Chychrun, is there anything that anyone would want on this roster?
I don't know. Nothing of value. Like, is someone going to trade at fifth or sixth rounder for Alex Galchenyuk?
Maybe.
For a playoff run.
But why?
I don't know. The Leafs did it.
It doesn't mean it's okay.
You know that model franchise, the Toronto Maple Leafs?
You know, all those draft picks that the Leafs have been parting ways with the last number of years? Yeah. It's a great reason.
Otherwise, like, no, I don't. There's like, I guess there's some depth here that teams might want to take a fly on for a playoff run, but no.
So we have that. The good news for them is that they are likely to be, I mean, they have the best odds for first overall pick. So that's great for them. They have, and should be a good draft this coming year, right? No matter where, if they finish like top of the draft, it's going to be great.
Yeah. I mean, they have 3 picks in the first round. They have 8 picks through the first 2 rounds this year.
So they have the Avs pick from getting Darcy Kemper, and they have Montreal's pick. And I'm not sure how they got that one.
Let's see. Click to view full trade details. Carl, Nick is
Christian Dvorak trade.
There you go.
That's how.
But what's the condition? The better of Montreal, Carolina's 2022 first round pick. Okay, so they're essentially going to get Carolina's pick from them
because it's top 10 protected.
Yeah.
So it'll be Carolina's pick, not Montreal's pick.
But it's still in the first round.
Yeah.
So they're still drafting 8 times through the first 2 rounds at this upcoming draft. Like that's 3 of which are in the first round. Like that's good.
And for this team, I mean, with their picks being forfeited previous years, their draft stock is empty, right? This is what they need to get better. And it literally is going to just be a bare bones rebuild. And it's going to be ugly next year as well.
It's going to be interesting to see what they get for Chychrun. Because Chychrun is the kind of player that they should be able to get a first rounder for, whether it's this year or in 2023. I guess it depends on the team and what they have available. But they should be getting a first rounder for Chychrun.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I would think, do you think that they're looking for picks, or are they looking for prospects or roster players?
I think they're looking for all 3. I think for someone like Chychrun, you're looking for a top prospect, a high pick, and then somebody who can be serviceable on your roster. I don't think they're looking for like a top line center, but someone who can be serviceable.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I mean, a serviceable player is unfortunately going to be a top line center on this team.
Yeah.
Like that's the reality of it, right?
Absolutely.
The fact of how their usage of this on this team is anyways right now is atrocious. Like they've got like the fact that Clayton Keller is not playing top line minutes is ridiculous.
I don't know, man. It's wild. This team's weird, and I never watched them either, so it makes it harder for me to comment on them. But
there's a reason you don't watch them, because it's terrible hockey.
Well, yeah. Why would you? Maybe in a couple of years, 3 years time, when some of these draft picks from this year, next year are going to start showing up, they'll be more interesting. But who even knows if they'll be in Arizona at that point?
It's true. The Houston Coyotes, the Quebec Coyotes. Are there Coyotes in Quebec City?
I don't know the answer to that, but there are Coyotes where I live, so I assume so.
Here's what was interesting to me. Because like we see this a lot in other sports. And so I don't know why, especially NFL, right? Because like we see teams go from like Las Vegas, like the Raiders, right? They were in LA, they went to Oakland, now they're in Las Vegas. They've kind of moved around a bunch. We see with the Rams who were like in LA, they left LA, now they're back in LA. So then like they don't seem to make it seem like a big deal, but it seems like such a huge deal. And it just made me laugh. I'm like, why couldn't the Coyotes have just gone back to Winnipeg when now we're going to have like, we're going to move a team from like, we're going to move the Jets to Phoenix, and then we're going to let a team in Atlanta, and then that team's going to move back to Winnipeg, and then the Winnipeg team's going to go to Quebec. And it just is a little nonsensical.
And all this franchise history is just like, it's just going to be so confusing.
So you're telling me that the Quebec team is the Colorado Avalanche and the Winnipeg Jets are now Quebec City? Uh-huh. Okay. As you were. And they'll probably, I mean, I know the Avalanche are like leaning into and celebrating the Nordique history now. They actually, even I saw it today, they had before pregame, you know, they like make the puck picture and they made it the Nordiques logo. So,
oh, that's fun.
Yeah. So they're leaning into it and embracing and celebrating that heritage and that history. But I'm sure that'll disappear if a team goes back to Quebec City.
I can't remember if when they first did it, if I liked it or hated it, but I now like the jerseys.
The Avalanche,
the Nordique ones.
The Avalanche colored Nordique ones. Those are so nice.
Yeah, I like them.
If I were to win high sticking and be able to get an NHL jersey from the Fourth Line podcast, that's what I would pick.
That's a good choice right there.
I know, but I don't think I'm eligible.
Did our friend pick an Anaheim Duck?
He hasn't picked one yet. He hasn't picked a jersey yet. So
keep me posted. I'm interested.
Yes, I'll keep you updated of what's coming his way.
All right.
Speaking of posting, I did post that picture for you.
Oh, thank you.
Of you and Phil. So
thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. All right, let's head to our best and the worst, the Connor and fittingly, the Coyotes. Connor and the Coyotes, where we talk about our best of the week and our worst of the week. We only have, maybe let's try and let's see. I got a best. Do you got a best and a worst and all the things?
Yeah.
All right, let's see how much time we have here. I really want to talk. I know this is an audio podcast, so it's difficult. But can we talk about that Cale Makar goal for a second? That's my best of the week.
Good choice. Against the Toronto Maple Leafs.
No, against the Chicago Blackhawks when he broke Kirby Dach's ankles.
Oh, that one.
Oh,
yeah. That one was really nice.
Here's the thing. Maybe we'll just make my best of the week Cale Makar in general. Because the fact that you have to question which amazing Cale Makar goal is the one that I'm wondering about is enough.
I was actually that Toronto Colorado game was my second choice for best of the week, so let's just lump it in there.
There we go. So that whole situation,
that overtime goal was beautiful.
It was nice, but not as nice as the Kirby Dach goal.
That's what I meant.
Oh yeah, okay. I thought you were talking about the overtime goal from Devontae's. I was like, yeah, like that was a fine goal, but the Cale Makar goal was next level.
That was next level. That's one of those, like, I know it's 3-on-3, but whenever I see a defenseman down below the goal line like that, I'm always like, what are you doing down there?
But if there's very few players where I'd feel comfortable with them doing that, he's one of them.
And he was doing it in his very first games in the playoffs a couple of years ago.
Oh, that series against Calgary. Absolutely. Yeah. He jumped in and was like, this is what I'm doing, and I'm just going to go with it.
Yeah. And the way he came up kind of to the half boards and then how quickly he just spun around and turned the jets on. And Kirby Dach was like, well, where am I? What's going on here?
That's what he does it all the time. He has the fastest, like, stop and go of possibly anyone in the league. The amount of times that he does that, like, he'll do it at the blue line and just be able to shake anyone, right? Especially when, like, Kirby Dach's a forward. You typically have a forward at the blue line, not the most agile defensively, and he makes them look silly quite often.
It was beautiful. It was so nice that I mentioned it to my wife later. I was still thinking about it after I watched the highlights.
I showed it to so many people. I was like, have you seen the Cale Makar goal? And they said, I haven't yet. I was the person. We all, if you went on Twitter or any social media, that was on every sport, not just like hockey accounts, but like every sports account that week. I felt I was that personified. I was going up to everyone. Hey, did you see this goal yet? Check out this goal. Oh, look at that.
Well deserved. It was a beauty.
Yeah. What's the note to you? So we've talked about the Leafs Avs game.
That was just a fun hockey game.
Did Leafs fans, did you watch that with a Leafs fan? Did you watch the game?
I watched the game, but I didn't watch it with a Leafs fan.
Okay.
But it's definitely to the point where at the end of that game, I was like, I don't understand how Leafs fans do this. Because I've been watching them for a few years now with my wife, obviously. And the playoffs are particularly intense, but I just know you can't, there's no amount of lead that team has where you could just sit back and be like, okay, I can relax now.
Yeah. It's not, for sure. It's not as bad as the Oilers, but the Leafs are kind of uncanny for it.
It's just, and I don't get it. Like, it crosses rosters, it crosses eras. Like, I don't understand. Maybe Paul McLean was right. They got demons demons in their beds, demons in their cars. They got demons everywhere.
Well, because that was on the road too. Like it's not even that you can say like, oh, it's something in the water in Toronto. No,
the water won't freeze here, so don't worry about that.
No, I'm sure it does in Denver. They're up high in the mountains there.
If that becomes a Stanley Cup final, though, that would be a very good hockey series.
I heard a lot of that, and I thought, of course, Leafs fans are saying that. Because, like, while they both hate their team, they're oblivious to the fact that their team can't win a playoff round. You literally used that as their resolution last week, and they're like, oh, this is going to be a good Stanley Cup final. I'm like, you can't win a playoff round, and you're like, we're going to the finals, baby.
Hey, Leafs fans, why don't you talk about what would make a good second round first?
Yeah.
Let's get there.
Toronto Boston's going to make a great second round matchup. Let's pump the brakes a little bit on Stanley Cup finals. Come on now.
I don't think Leafs Nation would survive a Toronto Boston second round.
I mean, I don't think the Leafs would survive a Toronto Boston second round, so that's irrelevant.
Okay, I know we're short on time, but my best, I have to bring it up because I think it's hilarious. So last night, the Red Wings were playing in Anaheim. It was a game that was postponed from Thursday, I think. And they played last night. Do you know who dropped the ceremonial puck?
Is it someone that has to do with both the Leafs and the Ducks? Or was it the guy that plays Goldberg in the movie?
No, neither. It was a literal monkey.
No.
Yes. They brought a monkey out onto the ice and they put him on a table at center ice and they had him drop the puck.
What was the logic behind it?
I don't know. I think it's like it had something to do with the baseball team. Like, I don't know if it was the baseball.
Oh, the rally monkey.
The rally monkey for the Los Angeles Angels.
Yeah.
He dropped the puck at the hockey game yesterday.
That's
hilarious.
That's good.
That's funny.
Next thing I want is the bull that Ken Holland's released in the Oilers locker room to drop the puck. That's what's next.
On a leash.
On the list of animals. Now, here's the question I have. Did that monkey do a better job than the average NHL linesman at dropping the puck?
Carl, it did. That puck landed perfectly flat, so crisp on the ice.
There you go. We've got it. Look, cost-cutting measures. The NHL's at a tough time. They're talking about, flat cap situation. Remove linesmen, replace them with monkeys.
Love it.
Solved.
Hilarious.
Problem solved. What was your worst of the week?
Oh, the Capitals' own goal. Did you see that this week?
Yeah, I did.
On the delayed penalty?
Yeah.
Oh, just a complete collapse of stuff that happened on the ice.
Any own goal? I can think of a few times. I remember it happened to Ottawa once in like the 90s that they had a delayed, or New Jersey. No, it was New Jersey got one because that's how Brodeur got one of his goals. It was a delayed own goal that got credited to him because he was the last guy to touch the puck.
Right. Like it's one thing if you're in your own zone breaking out and maybe the drop pass screws up or the puck bounces over someone's stick. Like I kind of get that, but when you have possession of the puck all the way in the offensive zone and you go to make a pass back to the defenseman and it just goes between the two players all the way down the ice into the net, that's bad. That was my worst.
Yeah, that's real bad. I'm going to skip my worst just because we are, like you said, we're running a little short on time today. But we do still have time for high sticking. And you remember how I said, I think our final point total last go around for high sticking was 9 points.
Yeah.
I believe that's what I said. The current leader is already at 9 points for high sticking this month, after 1 week. So it's fun. It's fun handing out points again. I know that we limited the amount of points because it was easier for me. It's fun. Just I feel like Santa, just handing out points.
But yeah, a bit of an easier game this round.
A little bit. I do want to personally take the time to apologize to somebody though. Matt takes the effort to DM me his picks every time. And twice this week, I forgot to check his DM to give him points.
Oh, you missed them?
And then he noticed and was like, hey, Carl, what do I got to do to get my points? And so I want to apologize and acknowledge that I'm going to try to do better.
Good.
I'd also like to say we had a high-sticking game postponed this week. Today was supposed to be Tampa and New Jersey, and the New Jersey Devils have a disaster for COVID right now, and that game today got delayed. So we had an audible. Today we ended up with Boston, Washington as our game.
Oh.
And that was a game.
Yeah, Washington got shellacked.
Well, it was, what's wild about it, it was 2-0 Washington in that game, and they lost it 7-3.
Wild.
Not a good look. So the way this works is we pick our Pavel Bure must-watch games of the week, because obviously Pavel Bure is must-watch. So are these games. We pick the best game every night. Then you head over to our Twitter at Fourth Line Podcast and pick the score of the game. If you predict the winning team, you get 1 point. After you've picked that winning team, if you get either of the scores correct, you get a point for each. So maximum 3 points, 1 for the winning team, 1 for each score in the game. I don't know if anyone picked 7 goals for the Boston Bruins tonight in this game. I think we actually had more people picking the Capitals. So we'll see what we have. Ooh, we got a couple. Matt tweeted at it because we had to audible, so he's getting a point tonight. I don't even have to go check his DMs. So thanks for making that easy for me.
Congrats.
I think only one person is going to be getting 2 points. They picked 5-3 for the Bruins. So shout out to Adam. So we're going to pick those games. You're going to predict the scores. Halfway through, we're going to send you some Fourth Line merch if you're our randomly chosen winner. But at the end of this, if you are the person with the most points, you get an NHL jersey courtesy of us. A way for us to empty the coffers here at the Fourth Line as we're wrapping up our final season. We're giving back to you, the people. So, Nick, Tuesday night, January the 11th, what game stands out to you?
Not a ton of great matchups. We were talking about Toronto and Colorado. Those I think are the 2 games that stand out to me. I'll let you pick.
I was going to go Toronto, Vegas as my game.
Done.
There we go. Toronto, Vegas. Speaking of Toronto, they play Arizona, who's in the Elimination Station. That is not a must-watch game.
No, it's not. No, it absolutely is not.
Neither is the second last team, the Montreal Canadiens, getting shellacked by Boston. So I think by default, does that become Dallas, Seattle?
Yeah. Hopefully we get another coach freakout.
One can only hope. On to Thursday. What do you got for us?
Thursday, let's look at this slate of games. Oh, boy. What about Pittsburgh, LA?
Yeah, Pittsburgh was, Cale Makar, a great thing for this week, but Pittsburgh is on a heater right now.
They're on fire.
Playing some great hockey. I think that's a great call. Pittsburgh, LA on Thursday, which brings us to Friday. I think our choice is Dallas again. Dallas, Florida seems to be the best game on Friday.
I think so too. Watched a lot of Jamie Benn this week.
Still not going to catch us, by the way.
No, I know.
No chance.
I'm tracking it.
It's easy to keep track of. It's easier than high sticking points. Nick got the easier job. Hey, Nick, you keep track of how many goals Jamie Benn has. I'll do the other one.
It's easy. He's on my fantasy team. I know it's 0.
My fantasy team is struggling right now. All right. Saturday. Man, I want to pick Carolina, but they don't have great matchups. No, they don't.
Disappointing. Why is Arizona playing so much this week?
Well, we put them in the elimination station. Should we shove them in one of these games?
Yeah, I'd rather watch them against Colorado than some other middling team. At least then we get to watch the Avalanche.
Yeah, the other one that stood out to me, maybe we'll do 2 games that day. We'll see if I can remember in time. because we could do the early Boston-Nashville games. It would be a good one to watch.
Yeah.
And then the evening game for Colorado, Arizona. How's that sound?
I like watching hockey all day.
All right. We're doing it on Saturday because on Sunday, there is only one game happening. It is Washington and Vancouver.
Another matinee.
Which brings us Monday. Why is there Monday? What is happening in the United States on Monday?
January 17th? Is it a holiday?
I mean, there's matinees on a Monday.
Matinees on a Monday. That's a good album name.
If I hadn't already named the episode "The Dance in the Desert," I could have gone with that.
Oh, The Dance in the Desert's good though. Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
Oh, that's a good reason to have a matinee Monday.
Yeah,
absolutely. All right. What's that? I mean, if we really want Arizona, we could have gone that game. Montreal, Arizona.
Oh no!
Battle of the basement.
We're not putting people through that.
Actually, I what stands out to me is both of the evening games. Nashville, St. Louis, and Pittsburgh, Vegas stand out to me.
Let's do Nashville, St. Louis, because we don't have a St. Louis game yet this week.
That's right. And we do have Pittsburgh and Vegas. There we go. So those are our games of the week. We'll tweet it out every day, or you can do like Matt does, and you can DM it to me and hope that I check the messages every day. Sorry, Matt. I just thought of a solution to it, though. I'm going to fix it this week. So I got you. So again, you head on over to our podcast Twitter at Fourth Line Podcast with the number 4 in there, and you play the game. You pick your game-winning goal. No, not that. Don't pick the game-winning goal. That will get you nothing. You pick the score of the game. Who's going to win and what's the score? Sometimes this is why when I don't go into auto mode, it's when you get weird opens to the show and I forget the date. That's what happens.
You're bookending it really well, though.
I'm just holding it together the best that I can right now. You can also head to our podcast, thefourthlinepodcast.com. That's our website, not our podcast. You go to our website. You can find the podcast wherever you listen to shows. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen, we're there. Subscribe, so we'll be in your inbox any day. If you also, your inbox, we're not going to email you, but we'll be in your podcast player whenever you show up. Tuesday mornings or Monday evenings if you're one of the dedicated few that stay up until this week, which is great because this week it's an hour late, so we're sorry to those folks. Also, you can find us at Full Press Radio or Full Press NHL. We're over there as well. Thanks for tuning in. See you next week.
Time for us to wrap up another Fourth Line show. I know what you're thinking. You don't want us to go. Will Evander Kane get to lay another hit? Or will Ken Holland be cleaning up marble